Imagine sitting in your room at 11:47 p.m. Your phone lights up. It's him. A short message, "I miss you." Your heart skips. You reply. You wait. And then, silence. Again, he disappears. Again. And deep down, though, you want to believe this means something real. Something brave, you know. You know that if someone truly loved you, it wouldn't feel like this. It wouldn't be this quiet, this hidden, this hollow. You see, most people confuse longing with love. But longing in many cases is just the echo of your unmet needs being played back to you. And here's where Carl Jung's voice becomes louder than the man who won't commit. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But what happens when only you are changing while the other stays intact, comfortable, settled, watching from the safety of his double life? When a man who already has a partner pursues you, it rarely comes from love. It comes from lack. Not yours, his. A lack of meaning in his relationship. A lack of honesty with himself. A lack of courage to confront his own shadow. And rather than doing the work facing the discomfort, he reaches for a shortcut, and that shortcut is you. This is where the illusion begins, because he says the right things. He knows how to create sparks. He knows how to mirror back to you the parts of yourself you want seen. But don't mistake mirroring for depth. He is not offering truth. He is offering reflection, designed to make himself feel worthy again. That's not love. That's emotional escapism. Jung teaches that everything we repress does not disappear. It gathers power in the unconscious. The married man who seeks attention from someone else isn't chasing love. He's running from his own emptiness, from boredom, from the truth about himself that he cannot face, and so he projects the solution onto you. Suddenly, you are the drug, the relief, the distraction. But here's the cruel part. The more he consumes your attention, your time, your body, your hope, the less he gives in return. And do you know why? Because he never came to build. He came to borrow. He came to sip energy from your emotional wellspring just enough to forget his own drought. You may think you're different. You may feel like the one. But think carefully how much of what he gives you exists in the light of day. How many plans has he made that do not end with maybe later? How many times has he promised change and delivered silence instead? That is not love. That is performance. You are not being seen. You are being used. And let me be clear, this does not mean you're weak. It means you're human. You want to be chosen. You want to be enough. You want to believe that someone could risk it all for you. But Jung would ask, what archetype is speaking in you now? Is it the inner child, longing to be rescued? The shadow self, hoping to be validated through forbidden passion? The persona, trying to make sense of a love that only exists behind curtains? When a man truly chooses you, he does it in full daylight. He doesn't whisper, "I miss you" at midnight. He shows up at 9 a.m. with coffee and certainty. When a man truly chooses you, he doesn't leave you waiting, wondering, decoding. He clears the path. He simplifies it. He makes it obvious. Why? Because love isn't complicated. Hiding is. And now I want to say something that may sting, but you must hear it. If he wanted to leave, he already would have. Not next week. Not after one more fight. Not when the time is right. He would have done it before ever involving you. The truth is, he doesn't want to lose what he already has. But he also doesn't want to let you go. So he takes just enough of you to stay full. and just little enough not to risk anything. That is not love. That is consumption. Carl Jung believed that the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge eventually rise up and sabotage our lives. So ask yourself this when you say he's just confused. Whose confusion are you actually protecting, his or yours? Because clarity doesn't look like months of waiting. Clarity doesn't look like a love that only exists behind locked doors. Clarity doesn't live in whispered calls and plans that never come true, in promises repeated so many times they lose their meaning. You may think you're being patient, understanding, loving, but often what we call patience is simply self-abandonment in disguise. You wait because he asks you to. You justify because he can't handle confrontation. You shrink because his life doesn't have room for your fullness. But let's be honest, if he wanted you in his life completely, you would already be there. This is what Jung referred to as the persona trap. The need to maintain a socially acceptable image, his as the family man, yours as the understanding woman, becomes the very mask that buries your authenticity. You bend to fit into the narrative he writes, while your needs, your worth, your dignity slowly erode. This isn't just about relationships. It's about your relationship with yourself. There is a moment in every emotionally imbalanced dynamic when the illusion starts to break. It usually comes quietly, not with anger, but with a sigh. A day where you realize you're tired of checking your phone. A moment when you see him online but know he won't message. A quiet dinner where you suddenly realize you're not sad anymore. You're done. And here's the paradox. The second you start choosing yourself, he will feel it. The man who feeds off your emotional availability will notice when you reclaim your attention. That's when the love bombs begin again. He'll reach out, say things he hasn't said in weeks, call you beautiful, tell you he's serious, tell you he's closer than ever to leaving. But remember, words are cheap when they cost him nothing. This is where you face your own shadow, the part of you that still hopes he means it, the part that finds comfort in being the emotional savior, the part that thinks, if I just wait a little longer, he'll choose me. But Jung would tell you that voice is not love. It's ego and wounding disguised as devotion. Real love doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't twist your sense of worth around a person who gives you crumbs and calls them gifts. Real love feels like safety, not secrecy. It walks beside you in the open, not behind closed doors. It doesn't need to hide behind another relationship to feel alive. Let's pause here. I want you to imagine a life where your love is not a secret, where you're not the pause between his obligations, where you're not a message he sends when his wife falls asleep. Imagine being with someone who calls you at noon because he wants to not, because he's free now. Someone who makes plans without an asterisk, without an apology, without shame. That life is possible, but it begins with a hard truth. He's not going to leave her. Not because you're not worthy, but because he's not ready. And if someone is not ready for love, it doesn't matter how worthy you are. You cannot carry someone through the door of transformation. They have to choose it for themselves. So what do you choose? Do you choose to wait, to wonder, to spin stories out of stolen moments? Or do you choose clarity, solitude over manipulation, honesty over illusion, peace over passion that burns only in the dark? Carl Jung warned us, what you resist persists. As long as you resist letting go, the pain will stay. As long as you believe in a fantasy, the wound remains open. But when you confront the shadow, when you acknowledge that what you've called love is actually a reflection of his fear, you begin to break free. You deserve to be loved fully, loudly, in daylight, not in fragments, not in secrecy, not in almosts. Love is not a feeling. It is a choice. And if he cannot choose you clearly, consistently, and completely, then he is not loving you. He is using you to escape his own emptiness. You are not here to be a footnote in someone else's story. You are not here to be a bridge between one life and another. You are here to be chosen, not because it's convenient, but because it's right. And if he won't make that choice, then you must. The hardest part is not knowing what to do. The hardest part is knowing exactly what needs to be done, and still hoping that maybe, just maybe, you won't have to. That maybe he'll wake up. That maybe the message you write but never send will be answered by action, not silence. That maybe the moment you finally decide to walk away will be the moment he decides to fight for you. But here's what Jung would ask you. Are you truly waiting for him? Or are you avoiding the choice to return to yourself? Every moment you spend hoping for a man who's already chosen another life is a moment spent in exile from your own. That's not love. That's self-betrayal. That's building a temple on a foundation of lies and calling it sacred. That's waiting for someone else to make you matter instead of realizing you already do. Jung teaches that the shadow is not evil, it's everything you've disowned. And sometimes the most painful realization is that you've disowned your own voice, that you've made yourself small so someone else could feel big, that you've mistaken being understanding for being invisible, that you've made excuses for behavior that would break your heart if it happened to someone you loved. So let me ask you this. Would you want your sister, your daughter, your best friend to be the hidden chapter in someone else's life, to be the secret comfort, the midnight escape? No. Then why do you think it's enough for you? You may tell yourself it's temporary, that he'll leave her, that you'll be the exception. But let's look at the truth. Not the words, but the patterns. How long have you been hearing the same promises? How often do his actions reflect his supposed intentions? How much of your life have you paused, softened, delayed waiting for him to act? And if he's still there, still figuring things out, still asking for more time, ask yourself, why is his comfort worth more than your clarity? Why is his fear allowed to dictate your future? Here's what happens when you start choosing yourself. The fantasy begins to lose its grip. The silence becomes louder than the "I miss you." The space you make by letting him go fills with something far more powerful than his attention. It fills with you. Your own voice, your own truth, your own light. Individuation, as Jung describes it, is the process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not pleasing, but whole. That wholeness begins when you stop seeking someone to complete you and begin honoring the parts of yourself you've been neglecting to keep someone else from leaving. Your anger is not a problem. It is a boundary being born. Your sadness is not a weakness. It is a message that something within you has gone unheard. Your jealousy, your longing, your despair. These are not flaws. They are signposts from the shadow saying, "Come home to yourself." You deserve a love that walks beside you, not one that hides behind another life. You deserve a man who doesn't whisper apologies, but shows up fully, fiercely, without ambiguity. You deserve to be called, seen, chosen, and protected, not in secret, but in the light of day. And that kind of love, it starts when you stop accepting crumbs, when you stop calling broken pieces a meal, when you stop apologizing for needing more. You are not too much. You are just too honest to keep living on almost, too awake to keep pretending this is love, too brave to keep letting your heart be someone else's backup plan. Now is the time to reclaim your narrative, not to punish him, not to prove anything, but to return to the center of your own life. Let him keep his half-truths and delays. Let him hide behind timing and fear. But you no longer belong to that story. Walk away, not because you weren't good enough, but because you finally remembered that you are. Walk away not because it doesn't hurt, but because it hurts more to stay in something that asks you to shrink. Walk away because silence is not love. Delay is not love. Secrecy is not love. Love is presence. Love is decision. Love is courage. Love is you refusing to wait for someone who only shows up when it's convenient. So now I ask you, what do you deserve? Do you deserve to be loved in shadows or in the light? Do you deserve to be a question mark in someone else's life or the answer in your own? Do you deserve promises or presence, secrets or commitment? Write this in the comments. I choose myself, not for anyone else, for you. For the woman who's waited long enough. And now breathe. Feel the power of that decision settle in your chest. You don't need permission to walk away. You only need to remember who you are. This is not the end of love. This is the beginning of real love. The kind that includes you fully, not halfway. The kind that comes from truth, not performance. The kind that does not fear the light. Choose it. Choose you.